Okay, and we are live. Hi, I'm Catie Harris, owner and CEO of NursePreneurs, and I'm here with Kayse McGovern.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kayse McGovern. I'm one of the community specialists for NursePreneurs.
Awesome. And so we're doing the IV hydration webinar, and we actually haven't done this one live in a long time. So I'm really excited to go over this. We have so many stories that we can share now, and really excited to talk about IV hydration with everybody. So I am going to, you know how this works, Kayse. I can't see comments
Yes.
when I'm in the zone.
When you're in the zone, your zone of genius. Yes, I know. I will keep my eye
I
on
don't know about that, but yeah, so if you want to ask questions, you can go ahead and throw them in the comments section. Otherwise, I am going to go ahead and get started. And basically what we're talking about here is an IV hydration clinic. And this has been a very, very popular topic, very exciting topic because I think it's something that nurses can imagine themselves doing. We do this every day. And if you're not personally putting IVs in, somebody next to you is doing it, right? Like maybe you have an IV team or something, but we all know it works too. I remember, and I don't like to tell lay people this, but I remember having our surgeons come in over the weekend and just be really hungover. And the first thing we would do is put an IV in and pump them up with fluids. And it was like a miracle.
Yep. I remember a similar story of one of our anesthesiologists when I was working in a post-anesthesia unit, was super sick that day. He when we put him in a bay and he got a couple bags of fluids and was brand new enough to keep going for the day at least.
Yeah, so I guess I could say that they were sick and not hungover. Because I'm
a lay person, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So, but there's this kind of looming statistic out there that 95% of businesses, never get off the ground or last more than 6 months. And I mean, I can attest to that because I've started like 20 businesses and only one of them really got off the ground. So, I'm part of that statistic. And a lot of that comes from, not having a plan, not believing that it's possible, not, really having all the pieces together. So the 5% of businesses that do get off the ground, they're typically people that are dedicated to, the vision, that they recognize that a business is going to take money to get started and time, and that they need some sort of coach or plan or something to help them, because starting a business is it's like if somebody threw you into the hospital and said, be a nurse, and you had zero, I mean, sure, you'll figure it out in a couple of years, but, and a lot of people won't figure it out and they won't do well. So,
and even when you have a business, let's say you went to undergrad and got a business degree, it's not the same really as being an actual entrepreneur, right? It doesn't actually give you the skills you need. You need someone who's done it to teach you.
Yeah, no, I actually have an MBA, a graduate degree in business, and the MBA teaches you how to work in the corporate structure. So if I wanted to be like a mid-level corporate officer or something, the MBA is perfect. But, for a startup, $1 billion, business plan is not going to be helpful for a startup.
Right.
And planning 5 years out is also not helpful for a startup. So,
right.
And as we go through this, we'll highlight some of our, our students that have gone through our program, some of the exciting stories that they had. More Lux, this is Carmen. She started her business and won a prize, for starting the business. That's her clinic on the left. That was the other guy. I don't know who the other guy is, but he also won that competition, but very exciting. IV hydration is a slam dunk idea. It is a great idea. It is a great business model, but setting it up still takes guidance and marketing. And, when we get to the end of this, the marketing is going to be the one piece that I want to really kind of hammer home here that you're going to need. So, if you've tried to start a business before, maybe you thought about IV hydration, but it didn't go anywhere. It's not your fault. Like I've had this experience too. I remember sitting at a cafe or something with colleagues, and we had this great brainstorming idea, came up with this great business idea. It's all there on the napkin, gave each other things to do, and then it just kind of dissipated, right? Like, did you ever have that happen?
Yeah. I've had 100 ideas that way. I feel like, and they are great ideas. And then I don't know, without a plan and without knowing where to start, all of
Right.
them faded away.
Yeah.
And then you know what? Sometimes 5 years later, I'm like, someone's doing it. I should have done it, but I didn't know where to start. And they probably did, because they probably hired someone to help them.
Right, exactly. And that's exactly right with IV hydration too, because there are many, many moving pieces to this. And, it's, getting to, you get to see these people like Morgan here who finally launched, and this is like a year ago. But, having people to help you see where you need to go and seeing other people do it is actually very powerful. And knowing that you can do it too, because that was when I first set up my own IV hydration business years ago. My biggest fear was like, I'm like, am I allowed to do this? Like, nobody said I can't, but nobody said I could either. So it was, and that's what I think having the group and having the course gives you that permission to go ahead and do it.
Exactly.
So our goal here today, we're going to talk about how to get set up in this type of business. Obviously, we're not going to be able to tell you step by step. I mean, it's actually quite extensive, all the things that you need to do, but we do want you to feel, reduced overwhelm, feel confident that you can do this, and discover various different types of business models you can pursue and learn how to make more money. Because what got you here won't necessarily get you to where you want to go without a few guidelines. So, for instance, we see this a lot with clinics. So when doctors and nurse practitioners start clinics, they have the expertise to perform in the clinic,
Yes.
but they don't have the expertise to run the clinic. And a lot of them run them straight into the ground despite having a great idea.
And honestly, probably there's people on this webinar viewing it that can think of at least a few clinics that they know of, or that they've, providers that they've worked for. I just heard about a nurse practitioner sort of once removed from me, who, it was like a general surgery practice, but it was private and the surgeons could do surgery. They were really good at that, but they couldn't run the business and it went under. And it's like a large metropolitan area. There's no shortage of clients.
Right. So it's not enough just to set the business up. You have to have all the right pieces in place.
Exactly.
And again, I'm Catie Harris, and this is Kayse, and we're both with NursePreneurs. So actually setting up the business is the easy part. Like, that is the part that everybody is pretty much ready to do. The other experience I have is naming the business, buying the domain, and creating brochures before I even know what the business is.
I actually think I still own at least 10 domains related to one of my ideas that I should probably go and find and stop paying for, because that was many years ago. It gets addicting buying those domain names.
I did do a domain purge, within the last year. I'm like, I really don't need all these domain names. It's getting ridiculous. It's not like somebody's going to pay me $1 million. It's not like I have nurse.com or something, right? Like, if somebody would pay me $1 million for it, they'll give me like $14.95 a year for it.
Right, exactly.
But the truth is that you can't really move forward until you do actually have a name, because you need to start filling out paperwork. And when you start telling people about your business, they'll say, well, what is it called? Well, I don't know. But it will help you to make this real in your mind, right? Like, name the business, and then you can start doing all the other things, like your legal setup and your business planning setup and all that kind of stuff. So, and then you can set up a brand and get your logo and all that kind of good stuff. Choose a focus. Kayse and I were talking about this because we're doing a YouTube series on IV hydration, and I'm going to be setting up a very niche specific IV hydration clinic that's focused on one product. Now, you don't have to focus on just one product, but you do want to focus on a particular problem, right? It's much easier to solve one problem at a time than it is to solve everybody's problems. The marketing is so much easier.
And that's exactly it. I mean, if you've heard of marketing avatars, it's basically like you create this person in your mind that you're marketing to, and you know everything about them, and if you have so many services that appeal to so many different people, how do you create a marketing strategy? It gets a lot harder.
It is. And I never really appreciated that until I, was putting together landing pages and websites and stuff. And then I was, my coach is like, all right, well, now you have to do the same thing for every single product that you have and connect them all and I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, well, I don't need these 5 products over here. Like, let's just get rid of them.
Yep, exactly. And honestly, even from a customer standpoint, sometimes it's overwhelming when you go to somebody that has too many things to offer, because then you don't know which to choose. And we're all indecisive. And sometimes when you're overwhelmed with a choice, you just don't make it and you move on.
Exactly. And it's kind of like the Chinese restaurant that has 14 pages of like menu items, and you're like, oh my God.
Or even Cheesecake Factory, as much as I love it, sometimes I get there and I'm like, why is it so hard to choose something? There's way too many options.
I like the restaurants where they have a fixed menu. Not everybody likes that,
Yeah.
so there's definitely, room for additional selections, but you don't need 14 pages of selections, and it will hurt you in the end.
Yeah, exactly.
But then anyway, and then getting the right people and the right system in place is going to be a game changer for you as well. This is Valerie. She's actually here in Philadelphia, and she started her clinic. She did IV hydration and then added med spa later, and has done very, very well. I've been to her business. It's wonderful. She did an amazing job with her branding. But what we want to do is show you what you're really getting into. And it's not just about starting IVs. And I know a lot of us, myself included, I've done fantasy math where I'm like, oh, well, they charge $250 for this IV. And if I do 100 IVs, that's $250,000 in just 2 months of work. And it's like, yeah, there's a little bit more to it than that fantasy math, because there's expenses and there's taxes and all kinds of stuff. So
yeah, exactly.
All right, so the 3 lessons that we're going to talk about are going to be legal, operations, and then your marketing aspect. So let's talk about the legal foundation of this, because this is something that comes up again and again and again. One thing that you are going to want to invest in is a lawyer who understands IV hydration. And I know it sounds funny because you think lawyers should just know how to set up a business, but there are lawyers who actually specialize in IV hydration, and we work with groups that do. We work with groups that understand and know IV hydration, because not all lawyers are created equal, and they don't all understand this industry. They might say, oh yeah, I can help you with that. And then we had nurses get led down just really bad paths. And it's very, very expensive to go down the wrong path with a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. And I've heard from IV hydration kind of business hopefuls about, paying a lawyer retainers and realizing after the fact that they got 0 from them, and then getting more in a 40-minute complimentary phone call with someone who specializes than they did after, dumping thousands into some service with a lawyer who had no idea.
Right. Because there's this thing called CPOM, which is another thing that, a lot of the nurses have to deal with, like some of these most popular states, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, California, New York, all of the states have CPOM. And the question that comes up is, can I own the IV hydration business? And in CPOM states, there is a legal precedent that says clinical operations have to be owned by a provider. Okay, so that provider could be a medical director, it could be a nurse practitioner. They can own a clinic operation, but in a CPOM nurse, technically, the nurse cannot own the clinic operations. So then, it's like, oh my God, the physician has to own my business. What am I going to do? And what happens is that this becomes a paperwork legal situation. And I think this exists just to give lawyers jobs and to support their families. But, basically what happens is that the nurse sets up her own business, whether it's an LLC. I think California, you have to open a PC, and in other states, it's a PLLC you have to open. So one of those entities, the nurse, and you own that 100%. Then the physician opens up their own business, his or her own business, and then the 2 companies work together. Okay. So the legal precedent is, and this came from like, remember that store Woolworth? Well, back in the 1930s or something, I don't know, it's a long time ago. The Woolworths would hire a physician and say, hey, we want you to push, I don't know, Percocet or something, and you need to hit these sales goals. And the AMA is like, whoa, like, no, that's not cool. You can't do that. You can't tell us how to practice. So that's where CPOM came from. So what happens in these states is that physicians can never be a minority owner. They always have to own the majority of the business, so nobody can tell them how to practice.
Right.
So that's where CPOM comes from. In terms of IV hydration, with the physician has to own 100% or 51% or this stuff. That is really irrelevant because you own 100% of your business. The physician owns 100% of their business. If they want to bring on a non-physician into their practice, the physician has to own at least 51%. But that has nothing to do with you. So I hope that's not making this more complicated than it is. But then the lawyer makes a contract between the two businesses. So the physician runs the clinic operations, you own the management business, which hires the physician and then to run the clinic, but then the physician hires the management company to run the clinic.
Right.
So it's
so confusing, but it's called an MSO, right?
Yes. The managing service agreement, but the MSO is the managing service organization, which is the nurse's business.
Right.
And the MSA is the agreement between the physician and the nurse.
Right. But moral of the story, this is why you need a lawyer who knows what they're doing and understands these specific nuances, because all lawyers are not created equal.
Right. And this is pretty standard. So as much time as we took to explain that, the fact of the matter is this is all it is a templated letter that just says that these two can work together.
Right. Catie, is New York a CPOM state?
Yes, it is. Okay. I have it on independent practice because New York has independent practice with nurse practitioners.
Oh, okay. But yes, so Susan had asked. So yes, it is a CPOM state.
Right. And even if you're in a non-CPOM state, there's precedent there that this should probably be set up. In the non-CPOM states, it depends with the independent practice, you can hire a nurse practitioner, clearly like Wyoming or Virginia, these states, Hawaii, Idaho, you can hire a nurse practitioner to be the director. But, with the groups that we work with, they're relatively inexpensive, right? I mean, the market value for a medical director 10 years ago was from like $0 to $10,000 a month. Now these groups that have come on, like Guardian Medical Direction and Doctors for Providers, they've actually created a market price for this. So a medical director shouldn't cost you more than $1,000, and the average would be about $600 a month for a medical director. And considering that they own the clinic operations for you so that you can actually operate, it's a pretty good deal, considering that you can't order medications if you're a nurse. If you're a nurse practitioner, it's painful, but especially in a like Pennsylvania, for instance, I'm in Pennsylvania, I have to have a collaborating physician, so I'd have to pay somebody to work with me, despite the fact that I would never use that person. So it's just a tax for me. But
it's also that if you break it down, let's say an average drip costs $200, three clients, and you get your return on investment for that particular service.
Yeah. So it's just without provider status, it's the cost of doing business. There's some quirky states, and this goes back to the CPOM, New York, California, New Jersey. When somebody says, oh, the physician has to own 51% of the business or 100% of the business, they should all own 100% of their own business. Like, I don't know where this 51% comes from, but, if they own the clinic operations, it's 100% and you own 100% of your business. And then there's just that back and forth. You manage the physician manages for you, and you each own 100%. And the management, the MSO, is the one that works with the money, right? Like all the money gets sent over to the MSO. So you're in charge of the money. And that's all that really matters as far as I'm concerned.
Right, exactly.
In Ohio, now there's always states that are going to come up, and this is a constantly evolving thing. Ohio, I think it was a year or two ago, came out and said that you have to have a provider on site. So if you are in the state of Ohio, that is something you need to look into. That came out of the Department of Pharmacy. So you'll need to look into that. And what the cost of that is going to be. So that is something that you will need to look at. And the state regulations change. Like Louisiana came out and said something stupid like nurses can't compound, which is ridiculous. But there's ways around that because you can certainly buy bags that are already compounded. But again, something that you want to price out. And we do have a business plan that we can send everybody on this webinar that you can use to work on those costs. What would it really cost you to open a business like this? Then the other questions we get is, can an LPN, an EMT, paramedic, phlebotomist, I'm blue, can I open the business? All kinds of stuff. And do I need a good faith exam on every client? So, the issue does come down to what your state says. And if there are no guidelines in your state for IV hydration specifically, you need to look up regulation for med spa, because med spa is like 10 years ahead of us. And you could just follow the history of med spa and see what's going to happen. So what happens is that there's regulation that comes in and they start dictating what you can and cannot do and who can and cannot own a business. So I would follow your state guidelines. And if LPNs can own a med spa, then you can own an IV hydration,
Right.
Unless there's specific IV hydration guidelines for your state, which there are some, but not that many. A good group is the American IV Association. They follow all of the compliance and legal issues. So it's a good list to get on for sure. The good faith exam, this is, again, out of med spa. It's supposed to be done yearly on every client. And it is a good habit to get into. Your state may not require it, or they might not have any thoughts on it. But it is, if you're not a provider, you have to look out for your license. You have to look out for, if you're infusing, even if it's just IV fluids, it's still a medication. It's still a prescription. So you want to be very cognizant of that. And doing a good faith exam is good practice.
And just for clarity on good faith exams, they are, there's lots of ways to accomplish them. And there's a lot of, avenues to take in terms of whether you are, contracting with an individual to do them, or there are services now that are popping up that you can sign up for. So there's lots of ways to do that. It doesn't have to be, a super complicated process to get those done.
Right. No, it doesn't have to be. And in a lot of states, it can be asynchronous. Like, the person fills out the medical history, you send it to the medical director. They have 30 days to review it and approve it. And that's it. Like, it doesn't have to be like this monumental task.
Right.
So it's something that you work out with your medical director.
Exactly.
All right. The next main thing is operations. So the 3 parts to your system: getting ready for the client, fulfillment, and getting the next client in the door. So getting ready for the client, the things that we need to go over, and this is what we go over in our program and our course, are, your medical director, your formulas, your supplies, and you're setting up your systems. So the medical director, we do strongly recommend a medical director service. And I say this because I've seen it happen too often where the medical director drops out at the last minute, right? And one of the great things about having guardian medical direction or collaborating docs is that they can replace that physician literally within 24 hours. I mean, I had one person down in Mississippi, her physician, they were supposed to open like in 2 days. And her physician was like, oh, by the way, I can't do this. And she called me up and she was crying and she was hysterical. And I called Annie at Collaborating Docs, and she's like, no problem, I've got somebody for you. And I was like, oh, okay.
Right.
She's like, we have people in Mississippi. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, they were able to set that up.
Yeah, that's huge, because I think a lot of people, people, right? Because you're in the medical world. So you're like, oh, I have someone who I know would work out great. And sometimes some of those relationships that you have seem like they'd be a great sort of quote business fit. And they can sometimes be a little bit too casual, and you need to set yourself up for success from a business perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you want to interview your medical director, and you might not get along. You might hate your medical director, right? And then you're stuck with them because your business will shut down without them. But you can replace them. It's not hard. It's easy, and physicians are like falling over themselves to be medical directors at this point.
Right.
I actually had another nurse out in San Francisco. She was doing so well. I mean, she was pulling in like 7 figures easily, and she was paying her medical director, and the medical director started to get jealous and then decided that all of a sudden she went from like $1,000 a month, and she's like, well, now I want $10,000 a month. And she was a nurse practitioner, and she's like, well, you don't even do anything. Why would I pay $10,000 a month? That's ridiculous. So I sent her to one of those groups as well. I'm like, you don't want to give the medical director equity. Honestly, they don't deserve it, because yes, you're paying them for a service, but I pay a lot of people for a service without giving them equity.
Right.
And there's options for you not to have to give away equity. Do not give away equity. Hold on to it as long as you possibly can. If there's, for some reason, if your medical director is an active part of the business and is bringing business in, you guys are partners, that's different.
Right.
But, if you to bring on a medical director and they're like, I want, 50% of revenue or something, I'd be like, no, how about $500?
Once a month.
Yeah. The other thing we offer are the formulas. We do have, I think, we have like 8 or 10 formulas at this point. You can always get a pharmacist to create new formulas, or there's formulas all over the internet. There's actually and I wrote a book, and the copy of the book is in the course as well, on different types of formulas. There is no standard formula, right, for anything. Like athletic performance, it's not like there is one formula. It's kind of like there's 1,000 variations of one type of formula, if that makes sense.
Yep. And some people for some IV hydration nurse owners, that they enjoy the process maybe of creating a formula. But I think, especially when you're just starting, like no need to reinvent the wheel. And if over time, as your business sort of grows and you become profitable and you want to play around with your own personal formulas, fine. But there's plenty of options. There's plenty of people who have done it before you. And that's what's nice about having a course that offers you something to start with.
Right. And I think that was like, we have one of our coaches who did a coaching session that's in the program called 4 medications, right? Like, what was that called? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Sorry, I was looking at a question in the chat. A coaching part for medications.
The 4 medications, how to create all your drips from 4 medications.
Yeah, it was one of our coaches, but it was amazing because she literally came up with, I think, with 4 ingredients, you could pretty much create all the drips you needed, especially if you're mobile. And because of the certain regulations, which you'll learn about, USP 797 is one of them, and how many ingredients you can compound into an IV bag. It was amazing how she could combine them all to create like multiple drips that you can offer even if you're mobile.
Yeah, because that gets expensive too. You don't want to be buying all different types of medications, and then people, if they don't buy them, they just expire. It's just wasted money.
Yeah.
So if you can, really focus on a handful of drips, just a couple medications, you're going to drive your expenses down, and that's going to be really, really important.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You have a question?
Well, we have a few just rolling in. I want to make sure that we comment. One person, Charlotte, was just asking what the approximate starting cost is of like an IV hydration business.
It's hard to answer. I always answer this with another question, which nobody likes, but I'll do it anyway. And the question is, how much do you want to generate from the business in a month? And the reason that I say that is because once you have that number, then we can go back and price our drips and figure out how much each drip cost, right? So let's say we want to make 10,000. I might even have this formula in here somewhere, but if we want to make $10,000 a month in profit, how much do we have to generate? Let's say we have to generate on a 30% profit margin, we'd have to generate 30,000. So how many $300 drips do we have to sell in order to get to that? So, it's kind of this backwards type of thing. Like you could spend anywhere. I've seen people bootstrap these for like, under 5,000. I've seen other people spend 100,000 setting up an IV hydration clinic. And it really comes down to what it is that you want to get out of it. If you just want something on the side and you want to make a couple $1,000s, you could literally do this for less than $5,000.
Yep. And especially, I mean, again, right, like you said, it depends on if you're leaping in, all in, leaving your full-time job. But even then, my personal opinion is don't I see too many people kind of like trying to get every single thing perfect and offer this perfect thing and this perfect chair and this perfect thing. When you are just starting a business, stop it. You don't need to do that. Get some clients in the door. It can be a folding chair because you know what? They're going to remember the service you gave them personally way more than they're going to be like, I sat in a folding chair, or I sat in the, you know what I mean? Start with giving really good service. And then as you get clients and get some, some money coming in, then you can expand and pour more into your business.
Yeah. And it's hard to do that because like I said, I've seen people rent out and renovate a storefront and spend like tens of thousands of dollars just renovating a space. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm having chest pain from this.
Right.
Like,
Before they've had one client or even launched a website. Right.
Exactly. But then on the opposite end of that, like, the people that try and bootstrap it so to the point that they stifle themselves, like the completely 100% mobile IV hydration clinics are actually way harder to do than you would think. Right. Because, getting supplies sent to your house can be a problem. Having, setting up Google My Business when you're completely virtual is like really difficult. Like we have students right now that can't get verified on Google Business, and you really want to be verified on Google Business, but having completely mobile, I mean, Google's like, well, where are you? Like, you don't exist.
Right.
And so it can't pinpoint you. So that gets to be a problem too. So even having just a co-working space, like having some sort of location, maybe you spend a couple $100s a month on, a room inside a medical practice just to have a location. So it could literally be anywhere from less than 5,000 to, again, 100,000. And it's a terrible answer because I'm not telling you what you want to know, which is the exact cost of this.
Right. But it's personalized because we're talking about a business that you're building, from the ground up based on your vision. Right. Yeah. And not everyone's vision for their business is the same, even when we're talking about it all being under the umbrella of IV hydration.
Right. So, I mean, you could give yourself a budget and say, I'm not going to spend any more than 20,000 or I'm not going to spend any more than 10,000 or whatever that number is that you can dedicate, that you can invest in. And then, that helps a lot because it gives you a finite budget. When I first started this business, I thought, I'm not going to spend any money. It's not going to cost me anything. All I have to do is put up a website that I build myself. And, $20,000 later, I still was nowhere with it. It was crazy. So, it's being disciplined and having a plan is going to help you immensely. But I also think filling out your business plan will help you to understand how much it would cost to service. Like, let's say, start with 10 people. Again, I had another nurse who ordered supplies for 100 people. And I'm like, oh my God, you're not even open yet. Like, how do we know 100 people are going to walk in the door? You don't.
Right.
So.
We have some more questions rolling in, but I promise everyone will get to you. We can keep moving and I'll ask them here in a few minutes if you want, Catie.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So fulfillment of service, your client flow process, knowing the rules and regulations, having your documents and systems all in one place. This is actually something that is new for us in terms of documents and systems because we've actually started to build out an EHR system in our marketing tech solution. So we invested this past year a lot of money in building out and customizing a marketing platform. So we are very, very well versed on the client flow process, the rules and regulations and documents. So, we have order sets for IV hydration. We do good faith exams, medical history. So everything is in one system, and it's an appointment system, which is really nice. But we show you how to do this with or without our system. You don't have to use our system. Obviously, this has been done before. And when we also partnered with Jane. So Jane app has been amazing for IV hydration as an EHR. It's an all-in-one system that is wonderful. And they onboard you and they show you exactly how to set up that system and get it in place. So it's been a great partnership that we've launched with them.
Yep, they're pretty great. I can attest to having sat through multiple demos with them and just being like fangirling over them, because I've worked with a lot of EHRs and systems, and there are not a lot that are as user friendly as Janus.
Yeah, and they, we don't get any. We don't get paid for, if you sign up, it's not like we make any money. So it's not an affiliate that way. It's just that we really, really like working with them. So getting the next client is also something that your operations, this is your marketing operations aspect. So, we walk you through the social media advertising, word of mouth, how to get those first few clients in the door. And a lot of it really is just word of mouth and local SEO, getting to get your first couple of clients. I mean, your friends and family are going to be your first couple of clients, right? You really want to work with people that you know. And I have a nurse, she's in Wisconsin, and I'm like, you're supposed to launch. And she's like, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't have a big space. I don't have this. I don't have that. I'm like, well, you need to start small. Like, let's just start before we get ahead of ourselves. Like, you don't have 100 clients to work with. I'm like, but you do have a handful of family and friends. So let's work with them first and get your confidence level built up. And she's like, yeah, that makes sense. She's like, that it really helps to just start with people that care about you and want to help you to do better.
Yep. That's what I was saying too, about people like kind of wanting to get every little tiny piece completely perfect. Well, there's just no such thing. And sometimes, no matter what, there's going to be pieces that you have to learn by doing and trial. And so if you're constantly trying to get things perfect, you never do start. And that's where that statistic earlier came from, where like 95% of businesses don't last past 6 months if they start at all.
Right. Automating the process of getting someone's attention to a payment process is going to be a vital component. So, as you're putting this together, we want to automate what is working. So sometimes you have to figure out what's not working, fix it, and then you automate it so that it is working. And a lot of that is, what we built into our marketing tech solution, which is basically how do I get leads? How do I get social media done? How do I get these blogs done? Because there's so many things that have to get done, and they don't have to get all done at once. Like, you need to map this out. Like, how long is it going to take you? What are you going to do when? And that's the kind of stuff that we like to help you with. So, we always share a lot of our testimonials and stuff. And, it's easy to see somebody and they're doing well and they're successful, but they didn't start there, right? They started like Ashley started. And it's a long road, right? She just didn't, start the course and then order her supplies. Like, she had a lot of back work to do. She had to understand how to function. She had to get through all the modules, work through, and some of it's, personal blocks that you have. Like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I don't have, this, that, and the other thing. My brand's not perfect. But once the supplies are in, once the money starts rolling in, once your confidence level goes up, all of those fears just, they don't all completely disappear immediately, but they do start to dissipate. They don't have as tight of a hold on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Let me just get back to a few questions. One person, Shonda, asked, she'd like to combine concierge with IV hydration. Does she need 2 separate names for my business? And I will just say definitely not. We have a lot of people who do that. And you name your business and hydration, IV hydration, and then whatever your concierge services are just 2 options on your service menu.
Yeah, I mean, I like that combination. I really like concierge nursing as a
Mhm.
business, and the niche there too is perioperative IV hydration services, which can be really, really popular. And I don't know that enough people are looking into that, especially even disease specific.
Mhm.
For instance, there's IV hydration drips for Parkinson's disease. There's IV hydrations for Lyme disease or um, chronic fatigue syndrome. And I write about those in the book that you get access to inside the course. And if you don't sign up for the course, you can find it on Amazon. It's called Infusion Mastery. But looking at those and working with neurologists and surgeons, bariatric surgeons, for instance, those people have to get people who go in for bariatric service, they need to be pre-hydrated and post-hydrated. And so working with surgeons to do that for the clients is really powerful, right? Or doing NAD drips before and after surgery, because I mean, that's a huge stress on the body, so creating that type of niche is really powerful.
Yeah, and that people forget that too, right? Like if you have a patient population that you really love, there's probably a way to niche your IV hydration down. It does, there's so many ways to do this. That's why we love that it can be really built out to what your vision and your dreams are, because you don't have to do the same thing everyone's doing, and you don't have to market to the same people everyone's marketing to. You can niche this and make it something that really you're passionate about. It's
Right.
nice.
And the ironic thing there is that the more you niche, the less expensive it will be for you to deliver the service, and the more profitable it will be.
Mhm. Yeah, which is awesome because so in so many ways, and also in some ways, at least in my opinion, less stressful.
Yes.
When you try to do all the things, then it just becomes very stressful. Someone said, do you help us with the business component, like profit margins or how much I'll need to sell to make 20K a month, etc.?
So yeah, we have that built out in the modules, and then we have coaching calls that occur so that we have office hours, we have coaching calls with IV hydration clinic owners. We bring in, Kayse is actually responsible for bringing in, experts who talk to you about money management, HR systems.
Right.
Actually, you could talk better than I can.
Tax planning for your business. Let's see, there's like the difference between tax preparation and forward tax planning, two very different things. Let's see, we've had people come in and talk about really unique ways to market for your business that feel less salesy, right? Because as nurses, we really hate selling ourselves. I think in general, a lot of us are like, oh, but now you want me to talk about myself and tell people why they should love me. That's not something that a lot of us are super great at. So we have lots of,
Yeah, we need to do that better as a profession in general. Even if you don't start a business, you have to go around telling people how great you are.
yeah, exactly. We had a couple questions about whether you can do this out of your home to start up. Like, for example, having a designated room in your home, but still also have a mobile option.
So, I'm going to say, again, doing this completely out of your home can invite some issues. And, what happens if the Department of Health wants to check out your business and your business is in a dark closet in your basement, right? Um, but at the same token, if you set the room up properly to 797 guidelines, you shouldn't have a problem. But again, you get into the issue of, one, you don't want to put your home address on Google My Business, right? Because people will show up at your house.
Right.
We had a nurse who had a registered agent, and she was mobile. She was completely mobile. And the registered agent called her one day and they're like, there's people here for you. And she's like, what? And they found her website and they found the address and they went to that address, not realizing she was mobile. But if that had been her home address, I mean, you have needles at your home. Like, do you want people knowing where you live, right? And so, to that extent, a lot of places, a lot of these nurses are, collaborating with chiropractors or primary care offices. There's a lot of empty commercial real estate space. and it's dirt cheap. So like for $100, you could get a location where you can keep things stored. And if the Department of Health does come in one day, everything is kosher and in place.
Yes, exactly. I mean, right. It's sort of a personal choice, but there's lots of cons probably to trying to run straight from your home.
Yeah, it's actually harder. You think it's going to be easier, but once you start getting into the marketing, and you have to have an address, so you have to pay it for your website, for your legal documents. There has to be a public-facing address. And again, you don't want it to be your home address. So you can use a registered agent, but if the registered agent is 300 miles from you, that's where Google My Business is going to say your business is located, and then it's going to start showing your business to people that are 300 miles away from you. So, that gets really frustrating.
Right. Shonda R said that she is in our course and it's fantastic. So thank you, Shonda.
Oh, that's nice. How much will it cost and how much can I make? That's a question that somebody asked earlier. And again, it's not an easy answer. There's the cost of goods sold. So what do the supplies cost? What are the cost of operations? Are you, even if you're the nurse that's doing the IVs, let's say you're a solopreneur and you're just doing it by yourself, your time still has a value, and you need to calculate that. Like, what would it cost to replace you? Because you don't want to be irreplaceable. You want to be replaceable, and you want to factor that cost in to your business plan. And then the cost of sales. How much does it cost to get somebody into your business? Because they don't just show up. They just don't magically appear.
Right.
You have to do marketing. And I can tell you from experience, because I used to work for Walmart. I worked as the senior manager for talent acquisition, and the clinics struggled. They were in South Texas and South Carolina and Georgia, because I had a zero budget for marketing. And Walmart's like, well, we have millions of shoppers that come through every day. But the thing is that the clinics were just there, and they didn't advertise them, and they didn't invite people to come in. And guess what? Nobody came in. So despite having millions of people seeing that there was a clinic there, they still struggled financially because they had zero marketing budget. You have to tell people that you exist. You have to have a marketing plan. You have to and actually I just finished writing a book on marketing that I'll add into the course as well. And it has a 12-week marketing plan. Like, what do you need to be doing? What has to get done? And what are you going to do every quarter to plan to make sure people are coming in?
Right.
All right. So this is where, I put together some ideas like for athletic performance. And this is our business plan has these numbers on it, like how much each component of the athletic drip. These are the components. This is how much you need. And per unit, this is how much it cost. So the expenses of an athletic drip were $35. We're suggesting you retail it for $250. That means you have a revenue of $215. We're not taking into account labor here or taxes or anything like that, or overhead. But, just kind of roughly, if you sell 100 of those bags, you're looking at $21,000. So 100 bags per month, 5 per day, working 20 days a month. So you would need to sell 5 per day to make, did I give a number? No, to bring in $21,000, you would have to sell 5 per day, which for 20 a month, that's not 30 days a month. That's taking weekends off, or Monday and Tuesday off, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And then you have to factor in operations, like how much is your rent? Do you really want to spend $3,000 a month on a storefront versus $100 a day in a chiropractor's office? I mean, not a day, a month, for rent. I mean, that's what I'd rather do. Like, I work out of a co-working space, a couple $100 a month, and you have a space to work out of, and it's great. And in which case I have zero cost for utilities, because I don't have to pay for utilities. But that's the other nice thing about, if you went to a primary care office, guess what? They pay for electric and gas and water and sewage and housekeeping and Wi-Fi. And they also pay for housekeeping. Did I say housekeeping? Medical waste. The housekeeping. I like housekeepers. Medical waste, right? Like, they pay for all that stuff. That's huge. Like, all of a sudden, $200 a month is nothing, or even if it's $500 a month and you don't have to worry about any of that stuff,
right.
it's a good deal.
And if that's an empty space that they weren't getting any money for, they were just, you know what I mean? Like it's a win-win for them too, because if they just have this empty space sitting there and it's just more square footage that they have to pay for all of those things for, they'd love you to come in and offer them $200 or $500 a month.
And some of them will just have you in there for free because they know you're going to bring in patients. But on the flip side of that, people that come into their office, they do all the marketing. They bring the people into the office and they're like, what's this IV hydration thing? And then they start talking about your business and they start selling your business without even meaning to.
Right.
So there's a huge value add in, networking and having a location somewhere specifically, aside from just your home. And then cost of sales, marketing is about how much it's worth to bring in a client. This is not an easy answer. This is a very, very difficult answer because you have to figure out how much an average client is worth. And when you first start up, they're not worth anything because nobody's paid you anything, right? So it's hard to generate. Like, how many times is that client going to come back? And this is like the art of marketing and sales. So let's say a client spends $250 the first time. What would you pay to bring that person in? You might say, well, I'd pay $50 to get a client in to spend $250. Okay, but what if that client comes in 4 more times and spends $250? Now that person's worth $1,250. So would you spend $250 to get them to come in? Like, yeah, right? That's where you want to figure out your average lifetime value of a client. And that starts to get complicated. But when you first bringing people in, right, we have to decide what is it that we're willing to spend in order to make a certain amount of money. So if the pot is, if we want to make $10,000, how much are we going to, we're obviously not going to spend $10,000 to make 10,000. I'll tell you, my first, one of my first sales, it cost me $20,000 to make 2,000. And I was like, this is not going to work out for me, But it did work out in the long run, right? Because it was the experience. It was all my startup cost and everything. That first $20,000 that I spent to make 2,000 allowed me to go on and make more money, right? So something to think about.
This is also, I just wanted to say, this is also the nice thing about the course too, or the program, and having the resources with NursePreneurs is we can also help you figure out, right? Like, you never want a client to only come and see you one time.
Oh God, that's a recipe for
like, and so and what's nice about NursePreneurs is we can help you figure out, right, like how to market your services and package your services in a way that you create returning customers. It's not that first, it's not the one-time customer that we really want at all.
Right. And the analogy I always use is the hospital system, right? Like, how much money does the hospital spend to bring in new nurses to replace all the nurses that leave?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what if we could just keep the nurses, then we have millions of dollars.
What a novel idea. Treat your nurses well and do what it takes to keep them.
Right. But that same concept has to come into your business. I mean, your main focus should be on keeping clients. And I mean, when you first start out, obviously you need new clients. So you have to spend your money on generating new clients. But over time and very quickly, you need to focus your time, money, and energy on returning clients as opposed to new clients coming in constantly. Because if you have to spend money, it's way cheaper to get a repeat client than it is to get someone to trust you for the first time and spend money with you.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So this was an example. So profit margin for IV hydration is easily 40%. If you're working 20 days a month, that's 5 days a week. You need 6 clients a day to generate $10,000. So hopefully that helps you to understand how much you can make, how much it costs to be, it's going to be up to you. It depends on if you want to bootstrap it, if you're going to go Gucci on it, or what you're going to do. So this is Jenna. She's actually down in Tampa. She really ran with that. She started out mobile as well, out of Tampa, but I believe she has a clinic now. And I think that's what she's showing there is one of her clinics. Either that or it's a guy's house that she went into.
Right. But, or sometimes people do pop-ups, in various
locations.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Pop-ups are fun. I like seeing those. And you can do pop-ups like, literally anywhere. I mean, that's the whole point of a pop-up. But, if going to health and wellness clinic conferences, you could have a pop-up there. And, a lot of these entrepreneurial groups have masterminds, and you can go to the convention center and, see if you can't set up a booth there. Like, how great would that be to have kind of like a section where you can infuse people after a busy mastermind day? Like, it's exhausting to think, and brainstorm.
Yep, 100%. And plus, other entrepreneurs, like small businesses and entrepreneurs, like supporting other small businesses and other entrepreneurs. So it's nice too, because some of them might grab your card and push you to their friends.
Yeah, I actually did that in San Antonio. We have a nurse down there who she decked out a van. And it's like this Mercedes van, and it's real big. It's like a party bus. And during the mastermind, I had her come and I don't know if I had the picture in here. I'll have to find it. But I took a picture of us in there, and she was doing an infusion, and I'm all decked out in her van. And it was amazing.
I've seen those pictures, Katie, when I was going through some of the pictures in the files, and it is awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, I love this idea. So she had a mobile clinic, and she could pop up anywhere. Yeah. All right, so our program is IV Hydration Launch. You can see it at nursepreneurs.com/IV Hydration, but we're going to go through what's in there. We built it out for content expertise, business setup, and marketing. We provide you business expertise, but help you to scale as well. We offer courses and coaching. So the coaches are top notch, and Kayse sets them up. They really know their stuff, like Ronika and Rob and Sarah. Like, they're amazing. And we're always we actually hire our students after they've been in business for some time, and they want to give back. They love doing this kind of stuff. So we do hire our students to come in and coach after they've had experience and they're doing well. So, that is really exciting for us to give back to them as well.
Yeah. And it's amazing when we get to do that, because like some of them went through the course and launched in even less than 90 days and are already opening, 6 months later, they're opening 3rd, 4th, 5th locations. It's really awesome.
And it wasn't a straight line. Okay. Nobody has a straight line to success. It's not just like you're here now, you go through the modules and then you're successful. It's, all of them had struggles. All of them, hit roadblocks and obstacles. And that's the kind of stuff that's extremely valuable to talk to them about. Like, hey, this lawyer told me I have to be a home care agency. Well, that's ridiculous. Get rid of them.
Right.
But you need that kind of feedback, and that's where it becomes really helpful. Or like, what am I supposed to do with this medical waste? Or I don't understand the 797 guidelines. What am I supposed to do? And that's where it becomes really, really helpful. And especially like if you've ever watched pre-recorded modules on demand, and you have a question, and obviously you can't ask anybody, but you can, because you have a community and you have a group and you have coaches, and 20 people will answer your question, whatever it is.
Yeah. And exactly. And in the group too, it's like, I'm in the group. So you tag me and I'm going to make sure I see it and find whichever of our experts or coaches is the right person to answer the question. It's a nice benefit.
Yeah, it's huge. And have lots of students that, like Sonia, I can't believe I'm opening my own business. I mean, that is really, really exciting. And actually, Sonia is doing very well at this point. She was part of our NAD seminar and is offering that as well. And working with gyms, that was a big thing. A lot of our nurses work with gyms and med spas. It's been very popular. So go ahead.
I was just saying, indeed. Yes.
Formulas, templates, waivers, contracts. This is stuff that people call us all the time and say, can I have the formulas? Can I have the templates? Can I have the waivers? Well, that's all in the program. We give you formulas that you can start with. It doesn't mean it's the end all be all of formulas. They are solid formulas. You can tweak them. It's a starting point. I personally just want you to tell me what the recipe is. Like, I'm not a cook in the kitchen. Like, I follow the recipe to the T. And all of these formulas were created by a pharmacist. We hired a pharmacist to great expense to write the formulas, right? The adverse reactions, contraindications, all that kind of stuff. So the formulas are solid. You can tweak them and play with them and create your own moving forward, but these will get you started. We also have standard templates that you can follow, waivers, contracts. Now, the caveat here is that we're not lawyers. We can't legally give you a contract, but I can give you what we use, right? And then what you do with it is on you, right? Like if you take that contract and, put it on your site, all I can do is recommend that you have a lawyer review anything that you get. But having said that, they're the exact contracts that our students are using, our clinic owners are using. So let's see. And, you always want to know that you're operating within full compliance with the law and your license. And the other caveat there is that the law is ever evolving, right?
Mhm.
So what's true today might not be true tomorrow. And it's something that as business owners, we all suffer through. So,
Indeed.
there'll certainly be evolving legislation, and that's why we've partnered with AVA, which again is the American IV Association. I'm actually going down there tonight because I'm speaking at their conference. But I work with the Cohen Law Group, which they specialize in IV hydration. I want to make sure that everything is in compliance, that everything is being done up to snuff, that we're not cutting corners anywhere. You're not operating out of, I don't know, you always hear about these crazy surgeries happening in somebody's basement or something. Like,
Right.
we want to be on the up and up. I don't want any nursepreneur ever to get caught and say, well, I just didn't know, because that's not an answer and it's not appropriate. So we want our course will evolve as legislation evolves, as laws change. We'll be there monitoring it as well, along with the American IV Association.
Exactly.
Another pop-up. This is again a gym, and Catie, you had mentioned folding chairs. That's exactly what that looks like.
Exactly. The chair is not the important thing. It's how the service that you offered made the client feel and how you treated the client in the moment.
Exactly. And they look perfectly happy. And it looks like a zero gravity chair. And some of those are like, I don't know, they're fairly inexpensive, $25 or something.
I see them at Walmart all the time.
Yeah. Business plan and financials, because you need to understand your numbers. And so that's why we walk you through each formula, what it costs, how much to charge, how much you can actually make. So you can calculate your cost inside of those business plans. Another person that likes pop-ups. Concierge nursing and IV hydration. We've certainly had nurses do that, and it is a game changer. It's a great method. It's a great model. I love it. You can also pair it. We have a lot of nurses that do IV hydration and med spa together. So actually, Lendra's doing that, right? She's integrating med spa into her IV hydration.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's again, like Kayse said, let's just start with one thing and then know that your business can expand. If you just want a little business, great. If you want an empire and you want 20 IV hydration clinics, that's great too.
Right.
But, let's start with, a main focus.
Right.
From a clinic flow and operations, how do you set up the clinic? How do you run the systems in the back end? How do you create an experience for your clients, supplies, equipment that you need? So we have this all listed out, vendors, your HR system, your policy and procedures manual, so that you don't have to start from scratch. You will have all of this. We do have a clinic and flow and operations module to walk you through it. This is Tracy. Actually, Tracy specializes in lip filler and IV therapy. So she came through our course for the IV therapy. She was already running med spa, but she's doing extremely well. Systems and tech. If you're not sure how to set up all the documents in your EHR, we do walk you through how to do it. But if you want us to do it, like I said earlier, we have gone to great expense and effort to pulled together everything into one system. So it's leads, it's driving leads into your system, getting them booked, following up with Google reviews, but also integrating the EHR so that you have an all-in-one system and you don't have to pay for 60 different software. It's all
Yes.
just one thing. So it's wonderful. So we'll walk you through step by step how to do it yourself, and buy 50 different softwares if you want, or how to work with us in that marketing tech solution.
Yeah, which is huge. As a non-techie nurse, I love a one-stop shop for.
Yeah, I do too. But I'll tell you, like putting the MarTech solution together, marketing technology was, it's been a nightmare because it's so complicated, like putting all those pieces together.
Right.
But now that we have it, I love it. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah.
Marketing, lifeblood of your business. If you stop marketing, your business fails, basically, unless you have like some seriously revved up loyal fans that come each week. But you have to, but even then, because you can rely on friends and family to get started, and I totally suggest that you do, but they're not going to be able to sustain your business long term. Unless they're paying really high prices, I'm sure, but you want to have clients lined up and ready to get infused even before you open. So marketing is something that you don't start after you set up the business. It's something you start before you launch the business.
Right.
And I've had a lot of people, they fight me on this, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Don't put on Instagram. Don't do this. Don't do that." And it's just kind of like, look, you have to let people know, and people love to follow your business evolution too. Like they like to, if you say you're opening in 2 months, and hey, my supplies just came in, like some of the posts that I just showed you, my supplies, my vitamins came in, the boxes are here. Like it's fun to watch that.
Yeah. Look at we all love to watch HGTV, and we'll watch a million different reality shows about people opening businesses or building a tiny home or doing, just like everyday things. People want to see you too. And you do have to get a little bit comfortable exposing yourself there.
Right.
Getting on a camera and talking for 5 seconds about your new IV supplies that just came in or whatever it is.
Right. Because you can't have clients lined up before you open if they don't know that you exist, right? Yeah. It's kind of an oxymoron. So in order to have people lined up with appointments before you open, you have to market before you open. So, start your Instagram, start it now, right? Like even if you're not going to start for 6 months, just, I'm starting my journey. I'm really excited. I'm going through this program. I just got my branding done. I just did this, my website set up. I just found a location. My medical director's a jerk. Like, whatever the case may be, you just share it. And, people follow that journey, and hey, the time has come finally, and we're opening, here's launch day. And people are invested. If they're following the story, they're invested in the story. They will sign up.
Yep. And then when you do launch and people are led to your Instagram or your social media handles, they see a lot more posts than just like 3. And that's nice too, because it gives legitimacy to your business if you've been posting for a while.
Right.
You can scroll back and see that you are a real human.
Right. And there's a lot of legitimacy in having multiple posts. Like when you only have 3 or 4, and you can go on Instagram and find profiles that have 3 or 4 posts, and all of a sudden it makes you feel weird and uneasy. It's like, yeah. Oh, okay, well, maybe I'll wait until they're a little bit more established. Yeah, and it has nothing to do with that. It just, but you want it, if you have an Instagram. So, and here's Ashley again, we're open with my first client this morning, but she's been posting, before this, she was posting a lot, and she had followers that were monitoring her progress. Mm-hmm. All right, so that's the coaching, course and coaching, formulas, templates, business plans, clinic flows, systems, tech, marketing, all the coaching that you get inside of the community. And, that is $299, $299.99. It was too many nines. Basically, $2,999. There is a payment plan if you want to go to nursepreneurs.com/IV hydration. Because honestly, each part of this is truly worth more than the offer. We've underestimated largely the cost of getting any of this, like just a course alone. Just the course alone is worth $3,000. The coaching, honestly, the level of coaching, the amount of coaching, the amount of support is definitely worth more than $3,000. Right. Formula templates, people, we paid more than $3,000 to get the formulas done. So just that aspect of it. The business plan, again, I hired a financial specialist to create a very extensive business plan with financials, and that cost me more than $3,000. The clinic flows and operations, oh my goodness, and systems and tech, it's easily cost me $20,000-$30,000 to put that.
I was going to say probably a minimum of 20.
Yeah. But, to offer it to nurses, it makes it affordable, right? So, just for one person to have to do this all by themselves, I mean, the price of this gets outrageous. It's ridiculous. But to be able to offer it to the group, makes it affordable for everybody.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So, my gosh. Even more. So legal education, we hired a lawyer to talk to the group. Jenny Chavis is in the group. She answers questions, and she has been a force. We actually we paid for her to go through the course so that she could be one of our IV hydration specialists and understand. And she set several of our nurses up in legal contracts and working with in the right framework, the right legal framework. So, because it can be an extremely expensive mistake if you choose the wrong lawyer. So you don't want to do that. Community access that you get, that's Kayse's realm. And you get to work with real nurses who own real IV hydration businesses and are doing very well. And actually, Vernika is one of our students. She's also down in Florida. She runs IV hydration and concierge nursing. So if you're interested in that aspect, she's one of our coaches, and you can talk to her. She teaches in both. And actually, as part of the community, we also do concierge nurse coaching inside the community, and you have access to that. So,
yeah, which is great. Renika comes in, and actually, when someone asked about IB and concierge, that's exactly who I thought of and whose website I looked at immediately on the side here.
Oh.
Someone asked, if we sign up, will the two of you be available to us?
Well, Casey's in the group, and I can be tagged in the group. My specialty is marketing. I would defer you to coaches that actually run IV hydration clinics inside the group for specific IV hydration questions. But for systems, marketing, operations, absolutely.
Yep. If we purchase the course, is there a set of office hours or access when questions arise? And again, that kind of is where the group comes in.
Yeah. So, and Kayse, you have weekly office hours for people, right? Okay.
So there's in the community that you get access to, there's group coaching calls every week. There's office hours that are specific. For example, like one week it might be systems and tech. Another week it might be social media content. We have a professional that usually comes in, a different professional group coming in every week. We have a marketing specific call every week. And then we also, again, the group is always there. So if you tag me or you tag Catie or you tag, a coach that is in the group, you can always be posting to the group and we'll get to your questions as well.
Right. And like you said, the live calls, and, I actually have my marketing director. That's what Kayse was just talking about. My marketing director meets with people in the group weekly, as she's always bringing in new ideas and really reinforcing the concepts that you should be implementing.
Yep. And actually her call is going on as we speak. It just started.
Oh.
Someone asked about being from Michigan, if we had any IV hydration lawyers specifically that we know in Michigan.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I don't know who they are off the top of my head, but we have nurses in Michigan that have been through this process.
Awesome. Let's see.
And that's what this slide is about, the Partners in Technology Rolodex. So we went to a lot of trouble to put together a list of people. And again, I didn't put this list together so I could scrape money off the top of that. I don't get paid from these people, right? I don't get paid from the lawyers or anybody else. If you go with them, it's just that we have built relationships because we like these people and they seem to know what they're doing, and they've helped our students immensely. So that's why we use them and we recommend them. If you don't want to use them, or whatever, or let's say you have a problem with them, please let us know, because these are relationships that we depend heavily on. And, we've gotten lots of great feedback. Every once in a while, we get a bad egg and we get rid of them as quickly as possible. But the group we have now is amazing.
Agreed. I work with lots of them really closely, and they are really awesome.
Yeah. And then, that technology Rolodex as well, like the different systems that we use. And again, we do have an all-in-one system. We have, if you already have some systems in place and you just want to keep going with that, we have options.
Exactly.
These are some of the businesses that we've helped put together. And yeah, so that is the program that's IV Hydration Launch. So if you are looking to start an IV hydration business, this is very solid. It's all the things that you need, plus the support that you need to get started, and the expertise. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's not just a course. It is about support in the community. Again, like nurses supporting nurses. We hire our students all the time. And we want to see you be successful. So we're in it with you.
Exactly. We had a couple more really quick questions that popped in. What day of the week do you hold the weekly calls? The coaching calls in the group are usually on Tuesday evenings. But they're all different. Tuesday evenings are the coaching call. Wednesday midday are the specific office hours. Wednesday afternoons are the marketing calls. Thursday is usually when professionals come in. Someone else asked, what if we sign up, what would be the timeline to actually open, to open their doors to their business?
So the course is designed to do it in 90 days. Now, I've had, and these are outliers, but I've had people do it in 3 weeks, and I've had people take over a year to do it. So it's really designed, because there are a lot of moving pieces to it, to do it in 3 months, because I'm assuming that you have a job, and I'm assuming you have friends and family that you still want to see over the next couple of months. So in order to do it at a decent pace, 90 days is ideal. If you take longer than that, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Nurses will say to me all the time, I'm behind. And it's like, no, life happens, right? Like people get sick, you have to take care of people. Maybe you have to work more at the hospital to cover some expenses or whatever the case may be. But to that, to answer that, it's designed to help you get up and running in 90 days. You can certainly do it faster. You can certainly take more time to do it as well.
Yep. And someone said, so basically the first step is taking the course. And I would argue, yes, that's probably a great first step.
Yeah. I mean, so for me,
going to walk you through.
Yeah. For me, I need to go through things. I need to see things. I need to absorb it. It just takes my brain time to process things. And sometimes I think I'm a lot slower than other people. But I just have to, one day it just clicks and I'm like, oh, this is easy. I can do this.
Right.
And then I move forward. But so I take longer to do things than other people. And some people, I had one nurse, I remember she came in and she was like, she had just taken out a loan for $15,000. She's like, I'm not purchasing, but I'm leasing commercial space and I'm going full force into this. And she did. Oh my God. And to this day, she's got 3 locations. She's doing really, really well. She's integrated infrared sauna and esthetician services. And I mean, you don't start there. It took her years to get to that point, but she was so focused and she believed that she could do it. And I think that was the real thing that made it happen, because she had such an unshakable belief in herself that she could do it, that no obstacle was too big or too small. She just overcame them all and did extremely well.
Well, and I know we're getting long here, but I will just say, and Katie, you say this, and I've heard it in other places too, but they say something like 90% of business problems are actually personal problems. And that is one thing I hope we kind of make clear is it really does come down to you, the individual, truly, right, feeling passionate about it and knowing that you can do it. Most of the roadblocks that you come up against, I mean, yeah, there's logistical things, but a lot of the roadblocks are your own limiting beliefs, your own sort of negative self-talk, and sort of letting things fall apart because of that. You can do it. We have lots of evidence over and over from students that have come through the course, and, you know, you can do it. You just have to be ready and willing to take the next right step each time that step, it's time for it, you know?
Right. Yeah, I that actually did happen to me. So in 2013, when I set up IV Hydration, I purchased like literally 10,000 brochures, which is ridiculous. I don't know why I thought I needed so many. Why I couldn't start with 100 as opposed to 10,000, I don't remember. But anyway, I got all these brochures in. I maybe handed out 5, and then nobody called me, and I'm like, see, it doesn't work. And I gave up. And it's just like the weirdest thing, because like, again, 4 years later, this nurse came in the same area and blew it out of the water, like literally blew it out of the water with it. And it was just amazing. I was like, oh, well, I could have done that. I'm like, I could have done it 4 years before she showed up. Like,
Right.
But I stopped because I don't know why I stopped.
It's a mental game, because it's a mental game. We're all human. But that's, again, I think the other benefit, which is kind of the unsung hero of it all, is when you're in a course like this and you have the community that we're here to be like, no, you can do this. Stop getting scared. I had a conversation in one of the office hours with a nurse who was doing that. And we chatted. And the very next day, she got the courage to go in and sort of offer her services at this local winery that had a spa attached. And the next thing she knew, they wanted her to offer these services at their spa. And, you know, it's a snowball effect, but it wouldn't have happened if she couldn't get unstuck in that moment of fear. And there is something to be said about having a community of other people to push you.
Because I can promise you, you're going to have obstacles. And I don't know what the obstacle is going to be for you, but it's going to be based on a limiting belief that you have that's going to make you think that it's not possible. And I think it's the universe's way of weeding people out. But if you believe that it's worth doing and that you can do it, it will happen.
Right. Whitney, I think this might be the last question that we have time for, but she had asked, after taking the course, will she have access to a medical director? And we help you get set up with a medical director. Right.
Yeah, we can help you get set up with a medical director. We don't actually do the medical direction because it was, there's a lot of legal stuff, like Annie DePascal from Collaborating Docs. She spent like $150,000 on lawyers to set up her medical direction and stuff. So it's not something I wanted to get into, but Guardian Direction, they do it for free. Doctors for Providers, not for free, they match you for free, and then you pay the physician directly. Doctors for Providers, the same. I think Collaborating Docs, they only work with NPs, but I think they have like a $400 finder's fee. You can also go on Indeed, and if you post an ad on Indeed for free, you'll get 60 responses within 5 minutes. Problem is vetting them and making sure that their business is set up properly. They understand CPOM, because most of the doctors don't understand it either. They're confused.
Right. And then I said that was the last question, but this one might be important, so we'll end on this one maybe. But someone said I may have missed if this was mentioned during the presentation. What's the duration of the course?
The course you have, if you join, you have lifetime access as long as I exist, I guess. As long as the course exists, you'll have access to that. The community you get for 3 months, and then it's a continuity if you want to stay in the community, which is also designed to help you get up and launched in your 90-day period. So
exactly.
All right. Oh, that was awesome. So look forward to working with you guys inside the program. You can certainly ask more questions and we'll be sure to answer them, or you can talk with our team anytime. Tag us either on Instagram or, if you go to nursepreneurs.com, the web chat it's a direct link to me and Kayse as well. So.
All right, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Bye.